Okay, hello everyone, and welcome back to another Thursday BookTube that's hosted by Patty from Life with Patty and her friend Daphne from, I think it's My Mountain Home and Kitchen. I hope I'm right, and I'm going to do my best to try to remember to put the hashtag in the description. I forget sometimes, though, and don't mean to. I'm sorry, y'all. But anyway, this is an ebook that I read, and I've recently gotten finished with it. It's been 2 or 3 days now. I've actually done started on another one, but anyway, this was a really good book. Now, guys, I need to say here, it's possible I have already done this and told y'all about this book, and I just can't remember if I did or not. So I may be doing it a second time. And if I am, I'm sorry, just overlook me. But anyway, I really enjoyed this book. It was a good one. It was one of them where it was a good book and all the way through, and I just was excited every night to hurry up and get to it and read on it some more. And you're sad when it ends because you don't want it to end because it was so good. Well, the name of the book is Appalachian Song, if I say that word right. It's by Michelle Shockley. And it's a historical fiction, which is what I've been loving lately. And it's a dual timeline, which I have just literally fell in love with. And so it has a timeline of way back in the day. And then it has a modern timeline, And it goes back and forth between them, the chapters do. They might be several chapters in one timeline, and then it will switch to the other timeline, and they might be several chapters, So what it is, there's this singer, and I think he's a country singer, supposed to be a country singer. I'm not positive. I don't catch everything just right either when I'm reading stuff. But anyway, so his dad and y'all, I don't know how to tell a story and tell about a book without giving away spoilers. To me, the fun of it is telling and explaining the whole book. Of course, if I go into detail like I normally do, this would be way too long. So I'm going to try to condense it down. But this man, and his name was Walker Wiley, and he was a singer, and his dad just passed away. So then his mom, when the lawyer called to have the reading of the will, had to talk to her son and said he wants us to come in for the reading of the will, but he wants me to tell you something before we go do that. Something that he feels like you need to know before we do that. And the thing she had to tell him was that he was not their real son, biological son, that he was adopted. They had adopted him. And it was done kind of unofficially. A preacher had handed him to them when he was a baby. And so he got upset. Even though his dad was gone and he missed him, he got upset with his dad for not telling him. He got upset with his mom for not telling him before. He wishes they'd have told him earlier, and all that. So he's upset with them, so he leaves. And I don't think it ever even gets back to the reading of the will. That just wasn't even really a main part of it, if I can remember right. And then knowing me the way I am, they did get to the will and read it, and I just don't remember anything about it. See, that's how I do. But anyway, so, y'all give me a minute, I'm thinking. So he kind of like leaves and don't go around his mom and them much anymore. And he lives in, I think he lives in starts in New York, but I think it's California, him being a singer and all. All of that part really don't matter anyway. So, he decides he wants to look for his real parents. Because he's wondering, why did they give him up? Why was he not enough? Why didn't they like him, and all this kind of stuff. And he wants to find them and find the answers to these questions. So his manager, because remember, he's a country singer, his manager is also his best friend and helps him out and lets him take a break from singing songs and making songs and all this kind of stuff and drives him around in the limo. Well, they do research and find, they found an article that was wrote, I think, about a midwife, a modern day midwife that helped a lot of people and all of that kind of stuff. So Walker Wiley wanted to find her and have her help him, because his mama had given him a piece of paper that she was given with him when he was given to them as a baby. And on that paper, it was signed by a midwife that had birthed him, and her name was, now let me see if I can remember. See, it's been a little while now. It's going to be hard for me to remember. Birdie Jenkins. And so he wanted to find that midwife that had helped birth him. And so he felt like he needed this midwife to help him that he read an article about that, helped people. Okay. So him and his manager goes to find her and actually goes to her house. And so, they call her first and ask for a meeting, and they come. Anyway, they meet with her. He asks her to help him. She agrees. And so anyway, they do stuff. They do research. They go in courthouses and look up old records and old newspapers and all this kind of stuff. And they find more about that midwife, Birdie Jenkins. Then they find where she lived. So they go and they're trying to find her home. They find another home, someone that knows her, and they guide them to their house. To her house. So they get to her house. Well, it goes back in time to the Birdie Jenkins. She has 4 sisters. The 5 sisters is living in an old log house back in that day, and still does in the modern day, at least 2 of them. The rest of them have passed away. But they never had electricity. They never had, they had the old stove. They never had a car. They used a horse and just lived the old way, an outhouse and all of that. And she was the midwife. And so it goes back and forth between the two, like I said. And Birdie finds this girl in the woods near their home, hurt. So she gets her and brings her in the house and doctors her and gets her healthy again. Then when they find out who she is and how she got hurt and about her life, they decide to let her stay there and live with them. They figure she's safer with them. And so that's all I'm going to say there on that part. And it goes back and forth. Well, it ends up that girl, let me see, she don't even tell them her real name. But she sings because once she got healthy and healed up, she started helping them do chores, cooking, baking, and they had a garden outside. She would help Birdie in the garden and all that. And she would sing songs, and she sang very, very good and pretty. So they started calling her Songbird. That's the name they give her and called her. She never told them her real name. Ended up, she was pregnant, and so Birdie, being a midwife, she helped her birth the baby. Well, a bunch of things happens all in there, And so she ends up having to give her baby up for adoption. And that baby happened to be the Walker Wiley, and they find her in the modern day now. Bertie's still alive as an older lady, still living in the same house, still with no electricity and no car and no phone and all of that kind of stuff. And so they go meet her and talk to her, and he explains and gives her the note, and she sees it. Now she knows who he is, but for some reason at first she don't want to tell him, because she wants to see what kind of a man he is, what kind of a life he lives now, to figure out if he would be able to handle the news about his real mama and her life and the situation. And so she plays it out like she's not sure. And, she kept a record book of all the births she helped with, and she don't know where the book is, and she's trying to find it. She makes him pull boxes down. She lets them stay there a couple of nights. They're trying to go through the boxes and find that book. And then once they do, but all during that time, she has got to know him. She's asked him questions about his current life and all of that kind of stuff. And so they find the book, and then they go through it, and she finds the part and gives it to him and lets him read it. Then she starts telling him the story and lets him know that she knows. Well, at first he got mad at her for keeping it away from him when she really did know who he was at first. So he starts to leave. But he sees a lady in the road. It's a dark, rainy night, and it's a young girl, and he picks her up and brings her to them because she's pregnant and fixing to have the baby. And he knows that Bertie plus, what was the modern midwife's name? Reese. And so he knows that they can help her have her baby. So he's hanging around, he's watching that birth, and it's making him think and realize, that's how it kind of was with my mama and all this kind of stuff. So he comes back around, and then he talks to Bertie again and finds out more. Well, he claims Bertie as his grandma. Her sister, the one left sister that lives with her, Ruby, he calls her Aunt Ruby. He had them a built-in bathroom. He got them a phone. He had them fixed up a little bit and got electricity in their house and all that kind of stuff. Then he actually went back to his home and started to work again. And one day he was in his truck driving and listening to a radio. And, because it keeps going back and forth between the timelines, and he hears somebody singing. And what it was, there was a song on a paper that was left with for the baby, Walker Wiley. And Bertie had give him that, and he had read that. So he was hearing this song, and it was the same words. And so then when the song was over, the radio man announced that was, what was the name she used? Evelyn, but then she used Jenkins. And then another name, which was a married name. And because he found out that her real name was Evelyn, and he's kind of putting it together, Jenkins, because Bertie was Jenkins. Maybe she didn't want to use her real name because of her life situation, and so maybe she decided to use their last name, Jenkins. So he's thinking, is that my mama? She sure does sing pretty, because Bertie had told him that she sung pretty. So he goes and finds Reese, because he wants her. They're starting to like each other, the modern-day midwife. And they go and search for her, and they find her, and he meets her, and they talk. And so he's got his mama, but he finds out his dad was also kind of a good man, but he had went into the army, and I guess I'll tell you that spoiler. He got killed in the army back in the day. or the military, whatever one it was he was in. And so it all ends well, and it was a really good book, and I loved it, so I think y'all should go check it out. All right, guys, I'm sorry if this took too long, but maybe I'll be back next Thursday with another booktube, and hopefully another good book. All right, we'll see y'all later. Toodaloo!